Hi, this is Lynn Schnebley with Educating with Wisdom, and I'm the ambassador for Heaven's creating and protecting goddesses and archangels over life. Let's go in very quickly because I need to grab your attention. This is about exposing the absolute arrogance and stupidity of both the legal, educational, and medical systems. I understand in the Bible it says, always respect a man. That's what Paul says. Try to respect the men, then they'll act well. Absolutely not. They do not. And so as God would say, you made God look stupid and you make, well, let me be quiet. This is legally okay to do in Canada. This is what I was fighting against to help protect my children. Notice that I got the day-to-day for the children. My former lawyer, who had many of the problems, never had to ask Udo for any, didn't have to go to him for the day-to-day. This is a copy of parts of the discovery. She said it was the worst discovery she had ever been in. My former husband's lawyer got all my medical records. Right. Let's get through and take a look at what that Adam and Eve paradigm causes. This is legal in Canada. I tried to get it out of our home. I tried to get my husband's nudity out of our home. My son was a teenager already. And let me explain, as I've already said, you're going to see a lot of things. How my son was treated when he got into trouble, not just what happened to me, but what happened to my kids when I tried to protect them. Again? Now, these were pictures he kept. If I tried to remove anything, my husband moved to put me into the psych ward. Honest and truly. That's why my witness is included. Please notice how my little son here is trying to cover himself up. My daughter is doing this. My husband was a nudist. All of these things are perfectly legal. Your husband can impose all of this on you. This is when the kids are young. The problem was that it was kept in the family photo album and everybody was allowed to watch it, including my daughters. Now, nice picture of my son's anus. The psychiatrist thought that this could be seen as art. All of this was art. And my husband was exchanging, pictures of his new children. Obviously, this is not our child. This is a colleague. He was a sociologist in Germany. And this is a frontal picture of the pubis. This is a picture of my son. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is that this came out both in the discovery as well as to the psychiatrist. My husband's ongoing nudity when my son was 13 and my daughter was 7, 8. He was still going around nude. I didn't have any place to live. There were many things that went on. Many things that went on. Now, in my case, I'm going to be pulling in not just this, but we're going to go through and take a look at the conversation that happened in the discovery. First and foremost, let's go back to that Garden of Eden story so that you understand. Here is the Göbekli Tepe. This is the man that I've told you that is trying to show that one should be modest. Okay, he's swearing, his hands are in front, so it reminded you of my little son there. Let's see if I can get another one. Here, this is very uncommon when we look at nudes. She's covering herself up, her legs are together. This is like the Adam and Eve story. Now they realize that they shouldn't be, when their eyes are open, they realize that they shouldn't be running around naked, coming out of the Babylonian and into the Greek aspect of the Jews. They ripped her knowing right from wrong. None of that is right. This is part of what we're dealing with today. And let's come in and just find, oops. Remember, it's Sarah and the words that have to really be producing these children, or the Magdalena. Here we have, I'm just wanting to show you, listen you. That is actually a masculine you. Listen you, plural. But down here, it actually says rouse you, and that's feminine singular. Rouse you, feminine singular. Clothes. Strength arm of Yahweh. Rouse you. Clothes. Put on your clothes. So the whole Adam and Eve story, the pornography that men allowed, everything that men allow, the worship of the penis, the worship of the breast. It's okay to love your genitals, and it's okay to love somebody's breast. It's not okay to put it out there publicly in front of everybody. All right? But our children and my family didn't have any rights. And in the case that I had with G4S, it was bad enough that my family put me down. I mean, I'm talking about, we had incest in my family that I went up against. We had pornography that my father engaged in all the time that affected my sister and myself, and my sister tried to commit suicide twice. Here my father is a hospital administrator. He is active in Full Gospel Businessmen. He is active in, Faith Alive. He is, that's like the Promise Keepers, Full Gospel Businessman, Faith Alive. He was in the Crescio. He was a Royale in the Crescios. He was a warden, a Juden warden. I think he was a co-junior warden. And yet there was open pornography constantly in our home that both my sister and I begged to stop. When I first heard that Adam and Eve story that my father read to me when I was, sometime between December and spring of my 6th year, as soon as I heard the Adam and Eve story, I'm a 6-year-old, very precocious, I said, that's not right. That's not how it happened. See, I'm a very old soul, and I knew that's not how it happened. And for a long time, I wanted to join with God. I can honestly say that the church drives moral people away. It does. And many of the people in the church are not godly. They are not moral. They don't really, God is always on their side. And the notion in the Christian church is, you just have to, you don't even have to be quiet, because Christ died for you and you get to go do what you want to do. My father's a Nicolaitan. Plain and simple. Most of my family is. So we've had sibling incest, cousin incest, exposures. We've had all kinds of things going on in our family, and you can't say anything when you're the women. And my family loved that I went on the psych ward with panic attacks, because it discredited me. And yet I just showed you that I never had to consult my former husband when they went through the psych wards. I never had to consult my husband. They got all the records. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insane. It was a monster of a case. And my former lawyer, Robert Jackson, who was sexually deviant, a bit like my former husband, in all 170-some pages of his notes, only once does he discuss abuse, and more often he complains about me. And yet my witnesses included the people who were the dean of the business school, German faculty, another person who was a friend, and a friend faculty member of his that he wrote papers with. And my lawyer never called them in for the defense, for us. Let's go in and take a look at some of this. Oh, I'm going to have to move this up here. So, let's read the kinds of things. Oh, and by the way, my father being a hospital administrator, it never dawned on him, even after my sister tried to commit suicide, so once my father said that he was sorry about what happened to us, and that made everybody feel much better, except my dad isn't. If I say to my father, Dad, pornography is linked to abortion, Hugh Hefner was pushing all the, he'll yell at me and he'll say, why are you so negative about men? What is your problem? Why are you so negative? If I say, we can't have pornography anymore, it hurts people. Oh no, we're just always going to, you can never stop that. My mother says you can never stop it. You can never stop the public use of pornography like this. You can't do it. I won't even go on a date anymore. The last time I went on a date, I had a man who I went to church with, who groped me even after we had lunch with my parents, breakfast with my parents. And when I sat across from Barnes & Noble with him, the first time that I got together, he's going like this, and licking his lips and looking at me, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with this man? And it didn't dawn on me that this is like lesbian sex pornography. I mean, like, he said, this is not the only time. Our men, regardless of culture, are completely self-consumed between the sports on TV and the sports in life, and the military and the weapons and the killing and the pornography and digging in, crashing cars, and every once in a while we throw a love story and some flowers in for the women. But generally speaking, you are completely self-obsessed. It's incredible. So, I talk about how the psychiatrist said it was a cultural thing. That it was a cultural thing. The psychiatrist agreed with Udo that it could be a cultural thing. Udo, I mean, I had electric shock 13 times because of iatrogenic disease. The medications that they told me were not doing, the imipramine was not causing the additional panic attacks. It certainly was causing panic attacks. Oh my God. It was horrible, just horrible. And it made all my family and Udo feel legitimated because Lynn was out of control and here I was having panic. So everything from the electric shock, from being put into isolation because I came down with jaundice and I didn't want any more drugs because of it could affect my liver. And the psychiatrist said that I had to take the drugs, and then proceeded to give me liver functioning tests every week. I mean, it was incredible. So I have already put one of these online, and we're going to go through this with the case. All right. When I went in to see the psychiatrist, Morris was 13, Chelsea was 8. I went in the fall just to, I mean, it was horrible at home, but I had just gotten Udo to agree to wear his skimpy little underwear when he got up in the morning and when he woke the kids up, or when he was in the house, because until then he would stand in the house, put his penis between his legs, stand by the kids, sit in the living room because we had a passive solar house, pull his foreskin back so that the glands would be showing. Our children were in the room. He didn't do it when we had company. No, he didn't do that one. And I couldn't do anything because the psychiatrist had said that it could be Udo's cultural right to do this. And like the pictures could be Udo's cultural right and could be seen as art. Even though my son is saying, Mom, I don't want Danica and the kids down the street to see these pictures of me. I mean, lovely pictures of my son's anus and everyone else. And it keeps going around in circles. I would hide in the bedroom, not having any place to say. And I told you, eventually it was St. Paul who came and led me, literally came through me and apologized. Didn't actually apologize. Said, it was never my intention to do this. Actually, St. Paul has never actually apologized. I don't know why. I think it's because Christianity was not going to be sold unless they completely gave in that women were second class in all things. But then, not really. But then, yes, really. It was this crazy thing in order to sell it to Rome and the rest of the world. So, to make a long story short, when I told my former husband, I had been on the psych ward 5 times between additional panic attacks from the medication, visiting my parents and having more disclosures of what was going on in their family, all right? The affairs going on in my folks' family, the suicides, the sexual abuse, the whole 9 yards. They never took my sister, by the way, early on to go get help in counseling when she was a teenager. She tried to commit suicide the first time when they were down in Florida, and I got a call at college when I was at Wells College for Women. Yeah. And I had already told my mother that Patty asked to go see somebody. No. And if you can't say anything to them, we are always the problem. And you're not allowed to say anything. But God forbid if you can't crawl out of it because of the things that they've done, and you're always the problem. They're never actually sorry because they don't want to go out publicly and discuss the whole thing. They would rather everybody think you're the crazy person. No one in my family has been willing to sit down and mediate with me. My mother has gone for 1 session. In all these years, she's preferred to think of me as crazy. G4S loved it, John Zuli loved it, the government loved it. They just spent their time trying to destroy me. All right, let's come on. My son. You're going to see what happens with my husband, who distanced himself and went to Europe for months on end and never communicated with his children. My son fell off the earth with drugs. By the way, you're going to see, here's my daughter's birthday. You'll see July the 22nd. That's my son's name change. He was originally Marian Schneble. He then became Marian Schneble Staba. He is July the 11th. This is the absolute most incompetent evaluation when I brought him in because I knew he was depressed and not doing well. This was done here. This gentleman had been the chief school psychiatrist, a psychologist, retired, now had his own practice. I thought it made sense for me to take Marius to go there. He showed me this thing, he said, your son's short-term memory isn't doing well. He's very smart, but he's, got all these other problems going on. But he said, I don't find him to be depressed. And I looked at this man. This is May. Okay? Within a couple of weeks, my son's girlfriend, whom he does drugs with, is missing. Her parents come to talk to me. I don't know where she is. I knew she was bipolar. They said, yes, we know she's bipolar. As it turns out, my son has been hiding her in the basement. That's right, in the house for a week, and bringing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches down to her and then sneaking her out of the window for a week. Then they are hitchhiking over the United States to visit my parents, and he gets picked up with a hash pipe. And he's 18 years old, and cigarettes. I tried to get him into a program in the United States. I went before the judge. And the judge said, I understand you're having all those problems in Canada. If you had been in the United States, I'd help get your son into a program. But I can't do it here. I could not get the Canadians to do the right thing. I could not get the Canadians to ever do the right thing. There are women, Joanne Oley, after my nincompoop Leo lawyer, who was very popular, and in fact he won Mr. Great Athletic for the over 60-year-olds in France the last time Jupiter was in Leo. Completely. Anyway, he plays tennis and he runs and he's athletic. When I tell you I keep my documents, I'm not here to help my son. I'm here to prove that when I tell you I called those Francophone teachers for his dual enrollment classes 6 times to make meetings, and nobody would dare to give me a telephone call. I have his notes and I have his documents. Nobody called. They would send me a message via his guidance counselor, who was just shaking her head because she's an Anglophone. And they would say, oh, he's doing fine. And then every term it would get worse and worse and worse until he failed his classes. After my son, the next year, forged his father's documents, after this happened, I sent a note. Our family friend, Dan, who was then dean of the business school, said, write to the director of education. I did. Thank you for forwarding a copy of your letter to Mr. Thorburn regarding your son's situation at Fredericton High School. This is obviously a very complex and difficult situation for your family. I sincerely hope that the school can provide the attention and support to enable Marius to have a successful and rewarding high school experience. The next year, when he wasn't doing well and I didn't get his report card, I finally got it. And he had forged his father's signature on his report card because he had, again, failed most of his classes. I called the school, left a message twice with the vice principal. Never got back to me. So, when I had children who needed help as a teacher, I bent over backwards for kids and their parents. And I have seen so many lying, scheming, conniving administrators, ESE people, not doing their jobs, and teachers at their wits' ends. But what I have never seen is an administrator or a teacher who absolutely refuses to call the parent back. And that was them. And I wasn't alone. It happened to friends who had a gifted child, very smart. She was a professor, he was a professor. It happened to another gifted kid down the street. She was a music teacher. She taught music. I wasn't alone in my experience. That's what these people are like. And the psychologist and the psychiatrist who don't know the difference between a man and a woman, the doctors who don't know the difference between a man and a woman, you're going to see in my case, literally, it says I'm not accepting my role as a housewife. And this has all been verified by Udo's lawyer. Excuse me? Excuse me? This, when I told you I got those shots that I could tell it was nano, something nano was given to me in lieu of having a real flu shot last fall. When I told you those things were happening, when I said, I'm serious, there is something completely missing upstairs in people. It's missing. And I have not seen my son since 2002. My daughter has been on the deathbed so many times. I've not been able to lift a hand or help because not intending to whistleblow, just doing what was legal and trying to protect the other kids, whether it was the girls at G4S that they were abusing the living daylights out of them, to kids not getting their support in Palm Beach County, or to the invalidation of the entire language arts assessment in order to prop up the Francophone system in Canada, which is what I got failed out of. Because I also moved in to protect them. The kids were forced to drink dirty water. There were holes in the ceilings where they were doing work in the girls' room, and the men would look down on the girls. I have this all documented. Yeah. I have it all documented. Examples of student work, the whole, everything. God said, keep your documents. Keep as many of your records as you can possibly keep, because you're going to need them later on. I became a Canadian citizen here at the same time I did. And I'm glad I did. Because now I can do this job. That's mine. And again, I am blaming so much. This is law enforcement, Maine District. This is going into my case. Possession and use of drug paraphernalia. There we go. Marius, I don't care that you don't forgive me. This last nonsense, I can't carry on a conversation with you. And by the way, this is going to protect and save so many other people. You're going to be a superhero. Don't ever think you won't be, because I'm not blaming you for what happened when you were 18 years old. I'm blaming those absolutely incompetent people who should have their testicles removed because they don't have, I don't know what good they are. Certificate of live birth. Who's this from? Oh, Marius. 7/11. I'm just going through this quickly. This is the real McCoy. And I can't show you the real pictures. I have the real pictures though. The real consent decree. I have all of these things. The consent orders. There's like nothing. I mean, the case is so incredible that the lady that did the discovery said, I can't believe what I've just witnessed. So let's go in and take a look at some of these things again. There we go. First I went out, this is when I came back from Germany after my husband lied about going to Germany for a year. Had to go because he had rented the house. And crazy. My GP said, don't go. I've been trying to get us into marriage therapy for a year. The GP agreed. The social worker said, you need marriage therapy. He would not go. First, I went on medication. The medication, I was not told at the time, we have documents, made the symptoms of anxiety worse. All right? These were normal medications. When I called, these were normal medications called imipramine, a tricyclet, which I was not opposed to. In fact, I did a paper on women in depression, and I was not opposed to using tricyclets for women in depression and anxiety. I wasn't aware of the side effects, though. It made the panic attacks worse. It should have said it made the palpitations worse. It made everything worse, and I didn't know what was happening. This was Carl Hanna prescribed it to me. I called the emergency room. This was right after we had returned into our home, and told the attending physician in the emergency room what was happening, and he said, well, this is a very unusual thing. I've never heard of that before. This must be your reaction. At that point, the panic, I should say, I panicked even further. I panicked on top of panic until I said to Udo, I need to go into the hospital because I don't know what's happening. The psychiatrist who was on call at that time was Dr. Shista. Dr. Shista was the admitting psychiatrist, which means Dr. Jerem no longer had jurisdiction over it. For the first 3 days that Dr. Shista had me in there, was still no discussion of what the medication had done. And he spent 3 days telling me that the problem was I had not accepted my role as a housewife. If I only accepted my role as a housewife, I wouldn't be in this sort of dilemma. Now, I went to a women's feminist college. I have a degree in psychology, medical sociology, and the whole bit. I didn't last with that. I asked my attending physician what I could do, which was Carl Hanna, and he said, Lynn, you can't do anything. You have to discharge him yourself. 3 days after admitted into the hospital, I went to Dr. Shista and thanked him very much for everything he had done. But I said, I'm sorry, sir, but I just don't think I can get the sort of help I need. He was not happy with the situation, at which point I walked down to the nurse's station, and Dr. Jerem was sitting there, and I said to Dr. Jerem, I'm Lynn Ann Schnebley. Carl Hanna has been trying to get me in to see you. I'm going to be discharged by Dr. Shista. Would you please take me? And that's what happened. But Dr. Jerem gave Udo and said it could be Udo's cultural right to walk around naked. Now, Dr. Jerem did not know that Udo was still doing that when Marius was 13 and Chelsea was 8. And when I told Dr. Jerem that Udo had just stopped doing this and he was just wearing underwear now, I informed Udo that I told Dr. Jerem that because I gave Udo an ultimatum. That was in the fall of 1996. And Udo said, I'm going to go see Dr. Jerem. And I said, well, okay, you know what? And as soon as Udo was done seeing Dr. Jerem called me back in and said, Lynn, your husband has said that he stopped walking around naked years ago. Now you have 2 choices. You can either come back into the hospital or you can go on another antidepressant. Oh, this is my family. This is what the government has done to me. They actually send real people into my life. You have telephone logs, pictures of people, conversations they've left, email, text messages, you name it. This is all real. And I have a psychiatric system here that says, you're psychotic. My daughter stepped up to the bat. The reason why I went off that medication was because I was inorgasmic due to it. And at that point on, I waited for Christmas, and within 2 months we were separated formally. You go into the hospital 5 times, you find out it's the medication that's causing the problem. Your husband keeps telling you to take a pill, shut up, it's his right. You lay things on the line, you demand sanity for yourself and your children, and he stops lying and being controlling, and he stops being indecent like this. And his solution is to go in and lie to the psychiatrist to get rid of you. just like what G4S did to me, just like what John Zuli did to me, quite frankly, what my parents did to me, because of their affairs, their adultery, their behaviors, not because of me. I'm not saying I did not do things that I knew were deliberately wrong. Some things happened because I didn't have privacy, but that was not my fault. That was a situation that I begged for privacy. As soon as I could get privacy, I distanced myself. When I saw my son trying to cover himself up, I told Udo we couldn't do pictures anymore like that. That's why from that point on, you don't see any more pictures of Marius. I said no, but Udo would not let me take it out of the book. And in fact, I had no rights. He was willing to put me in the hospital again. And when we separated, he told Myron Razoon, you know, it would be good if I could get her back into the hospital. And that's when Myron contacted me. Just like G4S, just like my family. But G4S is different, and the government went, because of what I know about these wars, because somebody in 2012 let me know that they were monitoring me through the email. They let me know on my computer that I was being monitored, what my conversations were. As soon as that happened, and I was having conversations with them via text messaging, and there were responses. I mean, having conversations, just responding to email, or just talking, and they would send a response back via email. The calls. You can see the stalking and the maniacal behavior in the G4S response to the Florida Commission on Human Relations in our case, and also in the Inspector General's report. This is society, and this government has no way, and your faith base is built on this lie, and you cannot save the institutions. You have to scrap the institution and start afresh on a whole new ground. And that is why God said, keep your records. Now let's go in, because I've spoken about losing the cruise control and all those other things. And I told you that I have it someplace in my storage, but I wanted to show you that it did go to the Lost Society. So let's come out of here. Okay. The 2012, there's the 28 pages, the Union of North America, explaining about the case, the new paradigms, the Hadam, the new coming of the age of the Indian, all kinds of things. It's all in here. So here we go. And the Lord said, send them all these things, the Bible according to Eve. They knew about, but here we go. An email dated then on the 14th of 2001. I wonder where that's located. I don't have that, I don't think. And here we go. Let's go down, and you're going to see. So after I had the issue of the cruise control that went mad, that I already discussed, that was put in here. This is in 2002, and that year was crazy, not just for me, but for everyone else. But here, you can see that I'm dealing with String theory. Oh, here we go. A picture of Lynn's motor vehicle. And then I'll just put it on pause and I'll find it. I know I saw it here. Oh, here we go. A correspondence from Lynn Schnebley. Oh, no, that's not it. Invoice from Sutherland Mazda. And that was the one that said that they had to move the cruise control. I discussed that, all of that, and the miracle of that, and seeing the 3 judges in this area with the Law Society. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've witnessed phenomenal miracles. From having the Tree of Life, all the massacre on the Tree of Life, and saying God hit them and hit them hard, and then having the MAX 737 going down between the sun of Indonesia as it's coming into the United States. And I knew right away then that they were telling me who did it, that it was affiliated with the Line of Judah movement, Barack Obama. And that's when I realized that his U.S. citizenship could be challenged, not because he was born in Kenya, that probably happened, but that when he was adopted in Indonesia, he would have had to have given up his U.S. citizenship. It gets really, really tricky. And then when the 737 MAX went down in March, it was right after I told the man who was busy deleting things off my phone, Alan, told me, wouldn't it be cool to know that we can read one's mind? And the FBI agreed that they know exactly what I'm doing in my room, and I'll never see the cameras. And then they sent me notice. I don't know who sent me notice, but they sent me notice in the fall of 2017 that they did in fact read minds. And I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they do that, other than looking at the displacement of Wi-Fi and brain waves, or working with jinn, but I have no idea how they do that. I mean, I get that you can look through a house and you can use the displacement of Wi-Fi in order to see even little minute body movements. But what I was thinking about, and how they started sending me emails about things that I wasn't verbalizing. And I can prove it. So, your government has a lot to discuss, and clearly your clergy doesn't plan on helping you. If they're working with, I don't know, jinn, the occultists, because goodness knows, our whole Apollo space mission, and I mean, our country is an occultist country. The world is an occultist world, and I believe in Jesus, and there you go. So, I got called. These are all real. All these things are real. When I say I have the documents and all of that, all real. With the baptism, I don't think I have this as part of the original. My first baptism, well, before I forget this. This was the Episcopal Church. I was born December the 12th. St. Mark's. All right, my aunt and uncle, William Schnebley and Alma Ryder, are both May the 17th, and Alma Ryder's husband was also May the 17th, but the year earlier. That's their birthdays. That's for the Eucharist. I have control over that one. And then, of course, the one for the Catholic Church when I was 2 3/4 Both my grandfather was from my brother, but because of what happened with my parents, they rebaptized me. My grandfather was a Sagittarius, either sometime between the 18th through the 20th, 21st. My Aunt Barbara Pisani, Aunt Barbara Kraus, is also December 12th, which is my birthday. So I had two Sagittarians there for the 9th house. And the priest who baptized us then was, and I just found out about this a few years ago, his name was Peter Cody, and the baptism was occurring because my brother was born, so I was rebaptized as well. And my brother's name is Peter, and his son's name is Cody. So it's like, and my grandfather and my Aunt Barbara have all had near-death experiences, experiencing other people that are going. And my Aunt Barbara Pisani witnessed her son as he was leaving his soul and the angels coming. It was amazing. So he was a person of great faith who had pancreatic cancer. So my confirmations, my baptisms, everything is patterned. Both of my children have Master 11s, have 11s for cancer, now lobster. My son was due on the 5th of July. My daughter was due on the 5th of July, 5 years later. My son came 7/11 and weighed 7 pounds 11 ounces, and my daughter came 11 days after that, and she came on the 22nd of July, and she weighed 8 pounds 11 ounces. And I have her birth chart here too. So I have all these things here. Patterned. So let me hang right now, and I'll put that up, and I think I'm done for just beginning. Thank you. I'm doing this for the school districts and everything, so that we understand that I saw a massive ESE safety abuse thing that students should never be allowed in the classroom. I saw 2 happen during the 2nd and 3rd week, actually the end of the 1st week and 2nd week of March of this past year in 2 different high schools. ESE completely off the wall. One was extremely violent that tore everything up, and she went after African American kids. None of this should be allowed, and everybody knows that these kids were a problem. One ESE kid is allowed to walk all over the place. Other ESE kids, the teachers are giving them the answers. I watched an ESE teacher pull Hertz kids for term exams and give the kids the answers. I mean, I'm seeing crazy things. I'm getting into trouble for not doing illegal things down here for ESE kids. At one of the schools, I refused, hand over hand is supposed to be for a kid who knows what the answer is and they need help writing it. Hand over hand is not the kid not knowing what the answer is, will never know what the answer is so low, isn't getting any of the answers, doesn't understand the question, and you take the hand and you're answering everything for them. I got into trouble for not doing things like that. And by the way, every time I get into a trouble in Broward County, it's not with the African American teachers, it's with blonde teachers, and the kids are blonde, or all the teachers were blonde, I should say. All the teachers were blonde. And in the case of an elementary school, the 3 kids were blondes as well. And at G4S, the administrators, the bulk of the administrators were blonde. And with Butch Mundy, he was blonde. And my 2 worst students at that school that no one would do anything about, they were all blondes. When Marie Cashin said, "Look out for the blondes," she wasn't kidding. On a different note, what is the probability that the district or that the education department has improved or will do anything? That's come out of me. Then I'll close. This is the commissioner of education. I saw this about 3 weeks ago. Now, let's look at it from a feminist perspective, or for an appropriate perspective, because he's the commissioner of education. He's a lawyer, she's a lawyer. Notice, I've done a lot of theater. We're looking at eye contact. The kids are looking up. Even if they're not looking into the camera, the kids are looking up. The wife would not be within dress code within a school district. She's so busy with her high heel shoes that she can't walk properly, and she's looking down at the ground. Lovely children. I'm not suggesting that her children aren't lovely. I'm saying this sends, as far as I'm concerned, when you talk about Black Lives Matter and black, here I am as a woman and as a feminist, and I'm speaking about these things. And it's bad enough that she showed up for that picture for that, like she's so busy showing off her body that she's not dressed appropriately for school. But she's not even looking into the camera because of her shoes. And the people that took that picture didn't tell her that they needed to retake the picture, because it really isn't this. Her not even looking up, blonde hair. I mean, if my case went before that man, he'd just write me right off. He's not able to see it. They're not able to see it. So when the Black Lives Matter, the people that are black see this, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I, as a woman, and I'm talking to you, whether you're a black woman or you're an Hispanic woman or you're a woman in China, your men, they don't even see it. They refuse to see it. Just like the church does, just like your own religions do. So I'm, thank God we have Jesus, and I have to say that to the women. Thank God Jesus is willing to let them come back as animals that are going to be torn apart. Thank God he's going to shut down their planes, get them into their bunkers. He'll get them. I know that. After what happened to me in cruise control, what happened with those cars, what happened with the hurricanes, everything points a finger in this direction, and I point a finger up there. That's it. No, you can't do anything with these men. You have to leave it up to him. And they haven't got a shot. They haven't got a shot. Not a shot. Thanks. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father. I don't thank me. I will see if I can get the African American women, because the blonde women are never going to help me.